The heiress lost her footing and fell from the Golden Gate Bridge. But with quick reflexes, I grabbed her by the collar and hauled her back to safety. The moment she was safe, however, she sued me. Her reason was that when I pulled her up, I'd also pulled up her shirt, exposing parts of her that shouldn't have been seen. He's just some poor kid. Wasn't he just looking for an excuse to grope me? He must have read too many of those trashy novels about saving the heiress and marrying into her family. And now he's trying it on me. But at that moment, all I could think about was saving her life. I didn't have time to worry about anything else. No matter how I tried to explain, public opinion wouldn't believe me. My fledgling company's market value evaporated overnight. With no options left, I leaped from the roof of my office building. When I opened my eyes again, the same heiress was desperately clinging to the railing, ordering me to save her. I just smiled and quipped, Well, princess, enjoying the view? Playing on the swings here on the Golden Gate Bridge? Sonny, what are you just standing there for? Can't you see I'm about to fall? Candy Sinclair clung desperately to the bridge's steel frame, her arms trembling, clearly about to lose her grip. In my past life, I didn't hesitate for a second. I just grabbed her collar and pulled her up. She never even said thank you, but I wasn't looking for a reward, just trying to do the right thing. I never imagined Candy would turn around and sue me for indecent assault and attempted rape. The media, fueled by her embellished story, was led astray, endlessly analyzing the video of the rescue. He clearly could have grabbed her hand, but he chose to grab her collar. Wasn't that on purpose? Another commented. Exactly. One hand would have been enough, but he used a second hand to grab her shirt. Otherwise, her midriff would never have been exposed. And what a creep. I knew what he was up to the second I saw it. No matter how I explained, no one believed me, and my business partner and my fiancée were dragged down with me. In the end, my only option was to jump to my death to clear my name. Sonny Miller, didn't you hear me? Pull me up now. Candy's voice was starting to shake. We were classmates in college, where she was always the queen bee, the most popular girl on campus. Later, a series of coincidences forced me to interact with her, but she never gave me the time of day. There were too many guys fighting to be her lapdog, and in her eyes, a self-made tech guy like me was the most worthless kind of suck-up. Out of basic courtesy, I always kept a respectful distance. Seeing me just watching her without moving, she grew frantic. Sonny, what are you trying to pull? Are you trying to blackmail me into accepting your marriage proposal? In your dreams. Oh, I said, turning to leave. Sonny, tears streamed down Candy's face as the will to live forced her to concede. I'll accept your proposal. All right, now pull me up. Her arms were shaking even more violently now. I turned back and frowned. Who said I ever proposed to you? She froze, her breath catching in her throat. I'm planning to propose, but it was never going to be to you, understand? I already had my own first love, Yara, and for reasons beyond my control, I had to stay on good terms with Candy. A few times, she caught me with gifts I prepared for Yara and completely misinterpreted them as offerings from another one of her admirers. I still remember her words perfectly. You think you can win over an heiress with this cheap junk? You really are just a poor boy. Then she stomped on the gifts I had for Yara, crushing them before tossing them to her dogs. In the past, I lived by the principle of avoiding trouble, so I put up with it. But I'm not putting up with it anymore. Since she despises me so much that even my attempt to save her life was twisted into something malicious, I might as well respect her destiny and enjoy being a little heartless. Sonny, with one final shriek, her grip on the steel frame failed, and she plummeted towards the water below. A splash of white foam erupted on the surface of the bay. I stood on the bridge, looking down, but I couldn't see any sign of Candy. Even though it was water, a fall from that height is no different from hitting concrete. Besides, Candy couldn't swim a stroke. Whether she lived or died was anyone's guess. I sighed and shook my head, feeling a twinge of regret. If she had just been a decent human being, I never would have let this happen. It might not have been the most moral thing to do, but there's no law that says you have to save someone who's in trouble. She brought this on herself. Just as I was about to leave, I saw a familiar figure swimming swiftly toward the spot where she fell. Thinking my eyes were deceiving me, I quickly pulled out a pair of binoculars. The moment I focused on the swimmer, my breath caught in my throat. It was Ryan, the imposter who had lived my life for 18 years. I had always believed I was an orphan. It wasn't until my 18th birthday that I discovered I was the true heir of the Miller family, switched at birth. The timing of this revelation, however, was terrible. My biological parents had already died in an accident. All that was left for me was the fake heir, Ryan, who had inherited my parents' fortune, and an arranged fiancée, Candy Sinclair. But I was already in love with someone else. For years, I tried to explain the situation and break things off. But Candy was so contemptuous of me that every time I approached her to call off the engagement, she assumed it was just another poor boy trying to suck up to the heiress, and she'd have her security throw me out before I could get a word in. Through my binoculars, I watched Ryan carry her to the shore in his arms. Candy's clothes were soaked through, clinging to her body, nearly transparent in places. Her shirt had ridden up high, revealing far more than it had in my previous life. Yet she didn't seem to care in the slightest, clinging tightly to Ryan's neck and pressing her body against his. I could read her lips. She seemed to be saying, "What would I have done without you? You saved my life." I was speechless. In my past life, I hadn't even let her clothes get wet. The accidental exposure then was less than a third of what was showing now. And yet, she had insisted I was a predator who had assaulted her. Now, pressed against Ryan's chest, she didn't even bother to pull her shirt down. I scoffed and turned to leave. At least this time, we had finally and completely burned our bridges. Calling off the engagement should be a simple matter now, right? Candy's condition, it turned out, was not good. The impact with the water had shattered one of her kidneys, and a suitable donor was nowhere to be found. When I arrived at the Sinclair mansion, before I could even open my mouth, Mrs. Sinclair slapped me hard across the face. "You bastard! Why didn't you save my daughter when you saw she was in trouble?" Mr. Sinclair was equally furious. "You were always just a poor kid, nothing like Ryan, who had a proper upbringing. If it weren't for the memory of your deceased parents, we would have transferred the engagement to Ryan years ago. We showed you such kindness, and this is how you repay us. Are you hoping our daughter dies so you can get your hands on her inheritance? I'm telling you, forget it. Even if we die, our fortune will only go to our daughter and to Ryan." Ryan was there too, standing beside Candy's wheelchair. He shot me a cold glare. "Brother, I know you grew up without any guidance and have no morals, but I never thought you'd sink so low as to do something so inhuman, just watching someone die without helping." I touched my stinging cheek, stepped forward, and drove my fist into his face. Everyone gasped in shock. "Sonny, what are you doing?" I stood over him, pointing. "You're an imposter who was switched at birth. Why do you have to bark at me, the real heir? I may not have had your fancy education, but at least I wouldn't steal the inheritance of the people who raised me." "Sonny," Candy grabbed my arm, her brow furrowed in anger. "Don't you dare touch him. Get on your knees and apologize to him right now." I glanced down at her and sneered. "Who the hell do you think you are? You think you can order me around? What did you just say?" With her looks and family fortune, Candy had always been worshipped by men. No one had ever spoken to her that way. Hearing my scorn, she trembled with rage. "Is it that you don't want to marry me anymore?" "Candy," I said, shaking her off, "listen to me very carefully. I have never, not for 1 second, wanted to marry you. That engagement was arranged by our parents. I never agreed to spend my life with a spoiled, arrogant princess." Then, I turned to Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair and declared, "As of today, the engagement between myself and your daughter is officially terminated. I freely give my claim to the Miller family's adopted son, Ryan. I don't want your daughter." Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair nearly stumbled. Men had always practically begged to marry their daughter. This was the first time she had ever been rejected so publicly, and by a poor kid, no less. "Sonny Miller," Candy seethed through gritted teeth. "You have nothing. Are you really trying to make enemies of both the Sinclair and Miller families?" I paused at the door. Thinking I was reconsidering, Candy sneered. "Come back here right now, kneel, and apologize to Ryan. If you do, I might consider not calling off our engagement." I shot back. "You think you're worthy?" She stared, stunned. "What did you say?" I turned back, my eyes filled with scorn. "My first love is 1,000, 1,000,000 times better than you." She stood by me when I had nothing and never once looked down on me for being broke. Who do you think you are to even imagine you could take her place? You, she sputtered. Oh, and one more thing, my dear brother, I said, turning to the fuming Ryan with a smile. I won't be coming after the inheritance. Consider it a little something for your trip to the afterlife. After all, your days are numbered. Ryan's breath hitched. It was only after I walked out the door that I heard him roar, Sonny, you dare curse me. I paid him no mind and went straight to a real estate office to close the deal on a waterfront mansion I'd been eyeing. It was the one Yara had admired when we first moved to the city. After that, I went back to our small rental apartment. It wasn't much, but the moment I walked in, I was greeted by the wonderful smell of a home-cooked meal. Hearing the door open, a girl with her hair in a ponytail peeked out from the kitchen and then launched herself into my arms. You're back. I tried a new recipe for dessert today. Seeing a smudge of flour on her delicate cheek, my heart ached as I gently wiped it away. It's been hard on you all these years. Don't be silly, she said. I chose you, and I'm not afraid of a little hardship. I know you're going to make it big one day. I believe in you. Living in this tiny apartment, it's so inconvenient. You've had to put up with so much. Hey, she said, playfully tapping my head. What's gotten into you? I've told you before. You just focus on your work. I've got things covered here at home. This is what I chose, so there's nothing to feel bad about. I cupped her face in my hands. Your birthday is in 2 days, and I'm getting you a huge present. Really? Her eyes lit up. Is it that little cupcake you bought me last time? It was so good. I've been thinking about it ever since. I smiled and shook my head. Bigger than that. Then, she pondered for a moment. I know. A hair clip. I took the faded, loose clip from her hair and replaced it with a new one I'd bought. Even bigger. Her eyes went wide as she touched the new clip, a look of pure delight on her face. After spinning around in front of the mirror, she shook her head. I really have no idea. What could be bigger than a hair clip and a cupcake? He smiled. You'll find out in 2 days. Hee hee, she giggled, bouncing over to me, her eyes sparkling like stars. I'll love whatever you get me. I stroked her hair. As long as it's from you, I'll love it. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. It was an iMessage from Candy. Sonny, we need to meet. This was the first time she had ever messaged me first, and it was an invitation to meet. For any other guy, this would have been the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. Too bad for her. I had no intention of playing her game. I blocked her number and went into the kitchen to help Yara. Over the next 2 days, my phone was constantly buzzing with calls and texts from unknown numbers. I have a lot of clients, so I occasionally answered one by mistake. It was Candy, her voice seething with rage. You blocked me. Sonny Miller. Don't tell me you're with that poor, ugly fiancé of yours. Candy, I said, my voice ice cold. You can say whatever you want about me, I don't care. But if you dare insult Yara again, don't blame me for what happens next. Sonny, how dare you speak to me like that? Do you have any idea who? I hung up and blocked that number too. The heiress had never been defied before, and having her pride wounded for the first time, she couldn't stand it. That's why she was so desperate to contact me, to try and regain the upper hand. But who did she think she was? In 2 days, I was going to start a brand new life with the woman I loved. But I never expected that 2 days later, Yara would be gone. I searched the entire city, but found no trace of her. She wasn't answering her phone or replying to my texts. As I was frantically calling all my friends to help me look for her, I happened to see it. A promotional photo for the Sinclair-Miller merger splashed across the giant screen in Times Square. The image showed Candy in a long gown, held by Ryan as they danced in a grand, golden ballroom. Their elegant dance captivated onlookers. She's the literal definition of a high society heiress, someone commented online. He's handsome. She's gorgeous. Rich people really are built different. I stared in shock at Candy's smiling face. When had she been able to stand again? I knew she had suffered severe internal injuries and was confined to a wheelchair. What was going on? My phone buzzed. It was one of my friends. Sonny, we found her. But my heart stopped. I immediately raced to the hospital address he sent me. When I got to the hospital, the first thing I saw was Yara, unconscious in a hospital bed. And then I saw the fresh, angry scar across her lower back. One of her kidneys is gone, Sonny, my friend said, unable to look me in the eye. It looks like she donated it to someone. To who? My hand trembled as I reached out to touch Yara's bruised face, afraid of hurting her. We don't know. When we found her, she was just lying unconscious in a bathtub full of ice. My friend mumbled, looking at the floor. Sonny, Yara whispered weakly. I leaned in close. What is it? Sonny, she murmured again. I'm right here. Sonny, Yara. Sonny, my friend said, gently pulling my arm. She's not awake. She's just murmuring your name in her sleep. We also found this clutched in her hand. He handed me a small, red velvet box. Inside was a digital watch. A small note was tucked beside it. You mentioned your old watch was broken, so I picked out a new one for you. I even set the time myself. My heart clenched. I had casually mentioned my watch was running slow over a month ago, and she had remembered. My company had only just started to take off. Before that, we had almost no money. This gift must have cost her a month's worth of savings. Sonny, we just got a call from the hospital administration, my friend said, hesitating. Yara signed a consent form for a directed organ donation. I grabbed his arm. Directed to who? Just then my phone buzzed. I answered. It was Candy, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. Sonny, miss me? Hearing the arrogance in her tone, my brow tightened. This was you. Of course. You were so disrespectful to me. I had to teach you a lesson. But I have to say, your poor, ugly fiancée did have one good thing to offer. Her kidney is a perfect match for me, by the way. Candy. I felt a rage so intense it felt like my heart was being crushed. I wanted to tear her apart. Her tone grew even more mocking. Don't use my full name. You don't have the right. This was just a warning. If you ever disrespect me again, I'll make you suffer even more. From now on, you'll do exactly as I say. Got it. Then she hung up. The veins on the back of my hand stood out. There was no way Yara would have voluntarily given a kidney to Candy. She despised that arrogant, entitled princess more than anyone. There had to be something else going on. I started frantically searching for recent news on the Miller and Sinclair families. I discovered they were riding high because their joint venture had just secured a massive round of funding, and they were now using that cash to aggressively dominate the market. The very market they were cornering was the untapped territory I was about to enter. I'll take it all back, I vowed, my fist clenched. Launch the product immediately. We're going to drive the Miller-Sinclair venture out of business. In my last life, they destroyed my company. This time, I would settle that score and more. I had been building a startup with my partners in secret, something the Sinclairs and Ryan knew nothing about. To them, I was still just a broke kid with no prospects. They had no idea that my new product was poised to completely crush their market share and dominate the industry. It was a shame that in my past life, I was driven to suicide by an online mob the night before our product launch. After my death, Ryan, as my next of kin, took over my company and became wildly successful using the technology my partners and I had bled for. And Yara, while trying to get justice for me, was framed and destroyed by the combined power of the Sinclair and Miller families, her body left unburied. This time, the moment my product launched, it created a firestorm in the industry. The Sinclair-Miller investors pulled their funding overnight, and that capital began pouring into my company instead. I also gave a signal to my allies in the business world to begin dismantling the Sinclair and Miller empires. The two families had made plenty of enemies on their way to the top, and now that they were vulnerable, everyone was eager to kick them while they were down. They started scrambling for new investors, which is how we ended up at the same investment gala. You can't even hold a tray of fruit steady. Is this how you serve that broke boyfriend of yours at home? I was walking along the second-floor balcony when I heard Candy's sharp voice from below. I glanced down and my blood ran cold. The woman she was berating, the one holding the tray, was Yara. My phone buzzed instantly. I answered it, and my assistant's voice was trembling. Mr. Miller, your wife is gone. I stared down at the scene below, my grip tightening on my phone. Candy was lounging in a chair, looking down at Yara with extreme displeasure. Your boyfriend owes us a fortune. Did you really think one kidney would be enough to clear his debt? Don't be ridiculous. Now, if you serve me well tonight, maybe I'll consider giving him a discount. Yara bit her lip, her recently healed body clearly struggling under the weight of the heavy tray. Still, she forced a smile. Please, Miss Sinclair, have mercy. Please don't make things too hard for him. I slammed my fist into the railing. It all made sense now. Why Yara had voluntarily donated her kidney, and why she was here, working as a servant, when she should have been recovering. Candy had lied to her, telling her I was deeply in debt to the Sinclair family. It was true that my company had faced some critical cash flow problems in the beginning. So when Candy threatened her, Yara would have had no reason to doubt her. And knowing I would never let her demean herself for my sake, she chose to do all this behind my back. Hold it steady. You can't even carry a tray. Is this how you plan to atone for his debts? Using solid silver platters for fruit? Miss Sinclair, you truly live up to your family's reputation. Hearing my voice, Candy froze. When she saw me, she scowled. Who let him in here? Does he look like he belongs at an event like this? Security, get him. The sharp crack of a slap echoed as my hand connected with her face, knocking her right out of her chair. Sonny, you hit me. Candy had never been treated this way by any man. Her own father treated her like a precious jewel. Staring at the red handprint on her cheek in a nearby mirror, she was so furious she could barely speak. Sonny Miller, get on your knees. I pulled Yara behind me and turned back to Candy. This isn't over. I'll be settling this account with you. I started to lead Yara away, but she struggled, trying to pull her hand free. Sonny, just go. I know all about the trouble you're in. Don't worry, I won't let her hurt you. Just leave. She tried to push me toward the exit. My eyes stung with tears. I pulled her into my arms. You silly girl. I don't owe them anything. If anything, they're the ones who owe me. Ah, big words, brother, Ryan said, appearing in the doorway. He helped Candy up, holding her protectively as he glared at me. It's bad enough you snuck into a private event like this, but to make such empty boasts? You're a disgrace to our parents' memory. I raised an eyebrow. You have a nerve to mention them? If I'm not mistaken, you've squandered every last cent of the inheritance they left you, haven't you? Ryan's breath caught in his throat. He thought he had hidden his failure well. Both he and Candy were good at keeping up appearances. Even though I had systematically destroyed their market share and their rivals were circling like vultures, they still carried themselves with the arrogant air of a privileged prince and princess. Perhaps that's why Yara had so easily believed I was in their debt. Business always has its ups and downs, Ryan said dismissively. A small-time operator like you wouldn't understand the complexities of major projects. One of the Sinclair's attendants couldn't help but chime in. Do you even know who the guest of honor is tonight? It's the CEO of the new Miller Industries, the hottest name in tech right now. With Miss Sinclair and Mr. Miller's connections, securing his investment will be easy. After that, the money you claim they lost will be nothing but pocket change. I blinked. Were they here to see me? It was true. I was the one hosting this gala. Knowing which companies were destined for success from my past life, I had started investing the moment I had the capital. In the spirit of open opportunity, I hadn't placed many restrictions on the attendees. I never imagined these two would make the list. What are you gawking at? Candy snapped at Yara. Get back to work. You spilled the fruit, so that's coming out of your pay. Hearing Candy's command, Yara rushed to pick up the fallen tray. I stopped her, pulling her back gently. As Mrs. Miller, you shouldn't be cleaning up after anyone. She should be the one serving you. You. Candy's eyes blazed with fury. Sonny, are you trying to start a war with me? Ryan added with a smirk. Brother, I should clarify. Even though your last name is also Miller, this CEO Miller is in a completely different league from you. Ryan chuckled coldly. Technically, my last name is Miller too. Does that make the CEO's wife my wife as well? My eyes narrowed. Candy, mistaking my silence for fear, snorted. Leave the girl here and you can go. You can't even protect your own woman. Sonny, you really are just a useless, broke loser who needs a woman to fight his battles for him. You're here to ask the CEO of Miller Industries for an investment, correct? I asked, pulling Yara forward. I then hauled Candy out of her chair and had Yara sit down in her place. Candy was speechless. Sonny, have you lost your mind? I gently held Yara's shoulder to keep her seated. Of course I do. The investment proposals from the Sinclair and Miller families are hereby rejected. Furthermore, both companies are now blacklisted from all future ventures. Permanently. Ryan and Candy stared at me, stunned. Yara looked up at me, confused. Sonny, what are you saying? I held out my business card. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Sonny Miller, CEO of Miller Industries. Seeing the card, both Candy and Ryan's eyes went wide. Ryan snatched the card and ripped it to shreds. How could you be the CEO? Where did you get this fake card printed? Candy also frowned. Sonny, stop pretending. I know exactly who you are. A poor kid will always be a poor kid. You think you're like Ryan, raised with the best education money can buy? Mr. Thompson, you're here. Please, get this imposter out of here. Candy grabbed the arm of one of my partners, who had come over to see what the commotion was about. Mr. Thompson was the official host of the evening's gala, but he just frowned, shook off Candy's hand, walked directly to me, and bowed his head respectfully. Mr. Miller, I apologize. It was an oversight by my staff to allow these people in. I'll have them removed immediately. What? Candy's breathing grew ragged, her chest heaving. How can you be the CEO? You were just another one of my simps. Mr. Thompson had lost his patience. Mr. Miller has never shown the slightest interest in you. It's always been your own delusion. Did you really think the Sinclair family fortune made you worthy of him? Candy had never been so humiliated. She pointed a trembling finger at Yara and shrieked. If I'm not good enough, is she? Don't think I don't know. She's just an orphan from the same orphanage as him. The sound of another slap cut her off. She clutched her cheek, her eyes red with tears as she stared at me. I gave her one last, cold look. Get them out of here, and make sure they are barred from every business event in this city from now on. As security dragged Ryan away, he was still shouting in disbelief. Sonny, how is this possible? I was the one our parents raised. I was the one who inherited the fortune. Who the hell are you to look down on me? After they were gone, I turned around, only to have my chin grabbed firmly. Yara stared directly into my eyes. Look at me and tell me what's going on. I thought you were in debt. I held up my hands with a grin. Didn't I tell you I had a big present for you? This mansion, do you like it? Yara's eyes widened in disbelief. This was it, the waterfront mansion I had bought for her. The very one she had pointed out with such admiration when we first arrived in this city, dreaming. Now it was hers. You're really, she began, her voice trembling. I cupped her face in my hands. So, are you happy? You jerk, she cried, her eyes welling up as she hit my chest with her fist. I stumbled back, confused. Yara. The next moment, she collapsed into my arms, sobbing. You must have gone through so much. My heart ached. I had imagined that when she found out about my success, she would be cheering, ecstatic, and speechless. I never, ever imagined her first reaction would be to feel sorry for the hardship I must have endured. With a wife like her, what more could any man ask for? The deed to the mansion was quickly transferred to Yara's name, and the company was running smoothly. My plan was for Yara to finally relax and enjoy life at home. After all the years of hardship she had endured with me, she deserved it. She wouldn't have to worry about a single thing. She could do whatever she wanted. But it turned out she got bored sitting at home and came to the company looking for something to do. And she found her calling. She completely took over our company's recruitment. She had an incredible eye for talent. And with the people she brought in, our company's value soared even higher. It was around this time that I heard from Candy again. The first thing she said when she called was, I called off the engagement. I was confused. Oh, Sonny, she snapped, her voice full of irritation. I said I called off the engagement. Don't you understand what that means? What exactly are you trying to say? It means I don't have a fiancé anymore. You can officially start pursuing me now. I was momentarily speechless. Candy continued. I know everything you did before was just to get my attention, playing hard to get. Let's be honest, if I hadn't pushed you by looking down on you, would you have ever achieved what you have today? You did all of this for me. I'll admit, I'm a little impressed. So, starting today, I'm giving you the chance to formally pursue me. I was even more dumbfounded. If I'm not mistaken, the Sinclair family is bankrupt, isn't it? Candy paused. So, you no longer have your heir status. You have no position and no resources. What part of you exactly do you think is worthy of me? Sonny, she sputtered, at a loss for words. But it seemed her time, since the bankruptcy had taught her a little patience. If I'm not worthy, is that fiancé of yours? She just lives off you. She has no status or resources of her own, and she's not even as beautiful as I am. Candy, I cut her off. I'm into strong, capable women, not spoiled little girls like you. Yara is exactly my type. In my book, cute doesn't hold a candle to competence. I said it just to provoke her. Her beauty, praised since childhood, was the core of her self-worth. And I had just mercilessly torn it down. She couldn't handle it, but I didn't give her a chance to argue back. As for my wife, she is brilliant and capable, and she deserves the best of everything. I became who I am today for her, not for you. I would gladly give her the world, but for you I wouldn't spend a single dime. Sonny, you, she stammered. I just sneered and hung up. A few days later, I received news that Ryan had jumped from a building and killed himself. I had been right. His days were numbered. Even if I had done nothing, the way he burned through our parents' inheritance, it was only a matter of time before someone set him up and bled him dry. With his fragile ego, he never would have been able to survive that. It was just a shame he'd already wasted the entire inheritance. He didn't even have money for his trip to the afterlife. Everything was finally going in the right direction, but there was still one last piece of unfinished business. Soon after, I paid a visit to Candy, illegally coercing an organ donation. Did you really think this consent form would protect you? I said, tearing the document to pieces. You're going to pay back what you owe Yara. The police arrested Candy shortly after, and I pulled some strings to ensure the kidney she had stolen was returned to Yara's body. After a period of recovery, Yara was as good as new. Meanwhile, Candy was locked up in prison, from where she somehow managed to call me. For the first time, I heard her sobbing uncontrollably. Sonny, you win. You really won. I'll marry you, okay? Just get me out of here. This place is nothing like the Sinclair estate. I'm not strong. I'll die if I have to stay here. I sighed. Why on earth would you call me? Sonny, stop messing around, she wailed. I know I was awful to you in the past, but I'm agreeing to marry you now. I'll put it in writing. I'm not tricking you this time. Just get me out, and we'll go straight to the courthouse. I swear, there's no need for that. Yara and I are already married. She fell silent. Years of being spoiled and worshipped had convinced her that she would always be every man's first choice. I thought that would be the end of it, but she continued, her voice desperate. I can be your mistress. I know you can't get over me. I can wait for you to divorce her. Candy, I finally snapped. I have never, ever been interested in you. Ever. Do you not get it? The only woman for me in this life is Yara. Who do you think you are? Did you really believe I did all this just to win your affection? Don't ever contact me again. I hung up and blocked the number. With no other way to contact the outside world from prison, I never had to endure her harassment again. The next time I heard her name, it was in a news report that she had taken her own life in prison. The pampered heiress couldn't handle the drastic fall from grace. She couldn't get along with her vulgar cellmates, and her princess attitude often earned her beatings. Finally, late one night, she decided she couldn't take it anymore and ended her own life. When I heard the news, all I could do was sigh. Her life never had to end up this way. Even though I never liked her, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to make her life miserable. But she insisted on backing herself into a corner from which there was no escape. In the end, she was the architect of her own destruction.